Clara was left standing there, her heart still beating faster than normal, and her mind reeling. Who was he? Why did he single her out of the entire room? She shook her head, brushing off the encounter as nothing more than a fleeting moment. After all, it wasn't like she would ever see him again. Clara's stomach twisted. I don't know what you mean. Clara had always known she was different. Born into a working-class family with no silver spoon to feed her, she had learned early on that survival was about grit, not luxury. At 23, she juggled multiple jobs to support her family, her sick mother, her little brother, and herself. There were no vacations, no fancy outings, just a life filled with endless routines. Yet, Clara never complained. She believed in hard work, and she was determined to make a life for herself. Even if it meant never seeing the inside of a designer boutique or attending a glamorous gala. Oh, I think you do, Beatrice said, her voice dropping a notch. My son doesn't associate with just anyone. And from what I've heard, you're quite ordinary. I'm just curious to see how long this affair lasts. It's not every day that someone like you enters our world. Clara. On the night of the charity event, Clara had no business being there. She was a last-minute replacement for a friend who had fallen ill, volunteering her time to help at a lavish gala for the city's elite. The event was being held in one of the most luxurious hotels in the city, and the guest list was filled with businessmen, celebrities, and socialites. Clara, in her simple black dress that barely covered the basics, felt out of place the moment she stepped through the doors. She wasn't accustomed to this kind of world, the world of expensive cocktails, custom-made suits, and the kind of people who never had to worry about rent. The words stung more than Clara cared to admit, but she held her ground. I'm just doing my job, Ms. Kessler, and I don't plan on overstepping any boundaries. She could hear the murmurs of the crowd, the clink of glasses, and the laughter that filled the air as she awkwardly made her way to the coat check. The employees were all dressed impeccably, while Clara felt like she might have walked in from a different planet. Beatrice's smile widened, but there was no warmth in it. Good. Because, dear, if you think you can fit into this world without consequences, you're mistaken. Are you okay, miss? A voice broke through her thoughts. Clara's hands tightened around her wine glass, and she nodded, fighting the urge to leave. But she knew Beatrice wasn't finished with her. This was just the beginning. She looked up to find a man standing in front of her, his presence impossible to ignore. He was tall, with sharp features that could have been sculpted by an artist. His black suit fit him perfectly, his tie immaculately straight, but it was his eyes that stopped Clara in her tracks, dark and intense, like they could see through her. As the days wore on, the tension between Clara and Beatrice continued to build. It wasn't just the gossip or the subtle insults, it was the pressure that weighed on Clara's every move. Every time she walked into the office, every time she sat in a meeting with Liam, she felt the eyes of the company on her. People were waiting for her to fail, to slip up. She had never been in a situation like this before, and she wasn't sure how much longer she could take it. I'm fine, she stammered, glancing around nervously. I'm just here to help. I don't belong in this crowd. To make matters worse, Liam's feelings for her seemed to grow more complicated. The more they worked together, the more he seemed to distance himself emotionally. There were moments when he'd look at her with that soft expression in his eyes, but they were followed by long periods of silence. It was as though something was holding him back, something he wasn't telling her. The man smiled, a little amused. Don't worry, no one here truly belongs, except for the ones who think they do. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at work, Clara was sitting at her desk, exhausted, when Liam appeared at the door. He looked worn out, his usual impeccable appearance slightly disheveled, and the lines of tension on his face were more evident than usual. Clara wasn't sure if he was talking about himself or everyone in the room, but something about his tone, smooth yet unbothered, intrigued her. I guess that makes sense. Clara, he said quietly, his voice low. Can we talk? I'm Liam Kessler, he said, extending his hand with a natural ease, as though they had been acquainted for years. His voice was deep, commanding, and entirely unassuming, as if he was used to making people feel comfortable around him. Clara looked up, her heart racing. She had sensed something was off lately, and the worry in his eyes made her nervous. Of course, she replied, standing up from her desk. What's wrong? Clara hesitated for a moment. Clara, she replied, shaking his hand. Liam stepped into the room, shutting the door behind him. He took a deep breath, clearly struggling with something. I don't know how to say this, he began, running a hand through his hair. There are things going on that I can't control. People are talking about us, and I'm worried it's going to affect you. I've tried to keep everything professional, but for a brief moment, their hands lingered longer than necessary. Clara felt a strange, almost magnetic pull. She immediately looked away, feeling embarrassed. Why was she reacting like this? She barely knew him. Clara's heart pounded as she listened, fear creeping in. What do you mean? You're the volunteer for the night, Liam asked, his gaze never leaving hers. Liam walked over to her, his steps hesitant. You're not just a colleague to me, Clara. And I can't keep pretending I don't feel anything. I've fallen for you, but I don't know if it's the right thing to do. There's so much at stake. Yes, just filling in for someone who couldn't make it. Clara shrugged, trying to deflect the attention. She wasn't used to being noticed. She wasn't used to being the center of anyone's focus. Clara froze, the words hitting her like a wave. She had known something was building between them, but hearing him admit it out loud shook her to her core. Liam? Liam's lips curled into a half smile. And yet, I find myself intrigued by you. There's a certain calm about you amidst all this chaos. I don't want you to get hurt, he said, cutting her off. I care about you, but I don't know if I can protect you from everything that's coming. My world isn't easy to navigate, and I'm afraid you'll be swallowed up by it. Clara blinked. I'm just trying to get through the night. It's a bit overwhelming. To be honest, Clara felt a surge of emotion wash over her hope. Fear, uncertainty all tangled together. This wasn't just about business anymore. This was about her heart. Well, I can tell you this, Liam continued, lowering his voice slightly. There's more to you than meets the eye. You're not like everyone else here. Clara didn't know how to respond. Liam's words lingered in the air like a heavy fog, suffocating her thoughts. He cared about her, she had suspected it, but hearing it out loud made it all feel so real. The only problem was, he didn't think he could protect her from the storm brewing around them. And as much as Clara wanted to believe in their connection, she knew that Liam's world was dark and dangerous, filled with betrayals and power plays she couldn't even begin to comprehend. Clara's heart raced. Was he teasing her? It was hard to tell, but something in the way he looked at her made her feel exposed, like he could see through her carefully constructed walls. For days, Clara stayed lost in thought, unable to shake the words Liam had spoken. She'd tried to focus on her work, but the pressure from the office, the constant whispers about her relationship with Liam, had made it impossible to concentrate. Every step she took felt like it was under the watchful eyes of the entire company, and every corner she turned, she was reminded of the reality she had been thrust into. Before she could respond, Liam glanced at his watch and then at her, almost as if he had made up his mind about something. You seem out of place, Clara. But maybe that's a good thing. Liam, though still affectionate, seemed distant. He'd pull away after brief moments of tenderness, as though trying to keep his emotions at bay, locking himself behind the walls of his power and responsibilities. Clara tried to convince herself that it was all for the best, but each cold moment only deepened her doubts. And just like that, he was gone, disappearing into the crowd of well-dressed elites as though their brief conversation had never happened. Then, everything fell apart. But as the evening went on, the memory of Liam Kessler lingered, like a shadow that wouldn't leave her side. What was it about him that had made her feel so seen? It started with a phone call, a call that changed everything. Clara had expected the night to be like any other, exhausting, unremarkable, and over far too soon. But as the last guest began to file out of the gala, her mind kept returning to Liam. There was something magnetic about him, something that made her feel seen in a way she had never experienced. She pushed the thought aside as she gathered her things, reminding herself that people like him and people like her didn't belong in the same world. Clara, I need you to come to my office. Now! Liam's voice crackled over the phone, urgent and clipped. There's something I need to explain. The next day, Clara went about her routine work, errands, taking care of her younger brother. Life had to move on, and she couldn't afford to linger on the strange encounter from the night before. But as the hours passed, something in the pit of her stomach told her it wasn't over yet. Clara's stomach twisted in dread. She rushed to his office, her heart racing as she tried to prepare herself for whatever was coming. When she arrived, Liam was standing by the window, looking out over the city. He didn't turn around as she walked in, but his body was tense, shoulders rigid. The air was thick with the weight of something unsaid. It wasn't until a week later that she received a call that would change everything. "What's going on?" Clara asked, trying to mask the fear creeping into her voice. The number on the screen was unfamiliar, but the voice on the other end immediately brought everything rushing back. Liam turned slowly, his face pale. There was no trace of the confident, powerful man she had grown to admire. Instead, he looked like a man who had been cornered, like he was about to face something he couldn't control. "Clara, this is Liam Kessler," he said, his voice as smooth and controlled as ever. "I hope I didn't catch you at a bad time. You're not safe here." "Clara," he said quietly, "and neither is the company." Clara's heart skipped a beat. She didn't know what to say. Liam Kessler, the CEO of Kessler Enterprises. Clara's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean? Is it because of me?" "The very same." He chuckled lightly. "I know this might be a bit sudden, but I've been thinking about our conversation at the gala, and I'd like to offer you an opportunity. How would you feel about working with me?" "No. It's because of them." Liam's eyes darkened, and Clara could feel the shift in the room, the coldness in his words. "Victor Ross. He's back. And he's not just after my company. He's after everything I've worked for, everything I hold dear. And he knows about us." Clara blinked, almost dropping the phone. What kind of opportunity? Clara felt her blood run cold. Victor Ross. She had heard the name whispered in the halls of Kessler Enterprises, but she didn't know the full extent of the danger it carried. "I run a foundation that helps support young entrepreneurs and community programs. I'd like you to help organize the next event for us. You'd be in charge of logistics, overseeing the operations, and, of course, I'd provide the financial support needed. It's a big task, but I think you're capable. You have an eye for detail." "Who is he?" she asked, her voice trembling. Clara felt a rush of emotions. This was absurd. She barely knew him. And yet here he was, offering her an opportunity to work for his company. But then, she thought of her mother's mounting medical bills, of the constant struggle to make ends meet. Was it the right decision? Could she really work in his world? A world so far removed from her own. Liam ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in his movements. "He's a business partner from my past. We used to work together, but he betrayed me. He's been scheming behind my back for years, and now he's come back to finish what he started." "I'm honored, really," Clara said, her voice a little shaky, "but I'm not sure I'm the right person for this. I don't have the experience you might be looking for." Clara took a step forward, her pulse quickening. "What does this have to do with me?" Liam's voice softened. "I'm not looking for experience, Clara. I'm looking for someone who has the passion and dedication to make a difference. And I think you have that." Liam's gaze softened, regret flashing in his eyes. "He knows about you, Clara. He knows about our relationship, and he's using that against me. He'll stop at nothing to get what he wants. And that includes destroying everything I care about. You're in danger. We both are." Clara's heart was racing, but she couldn't bring herself to say no. "I'll think about it," she finally said. "But I don't want to waste your time. I'm not sure if I can handle something like this." Clara's heart clenched. "But how can we stop him?" "I understand," Liam replied, his tone still calm and reassuring. "Take your time. Just know that the offer stands. I'll be waiting for your answer." "We need to take action," Liam said, his tone turning more decisive. "I'm not going to let him destroy you, or the company, but it won't be easy. He's playing a dangerous game." He hung up, and Clara was left standing there, the weight of the call pressing on her. Liam Kessler, the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, had just offered her a chance to work for him. She couldn't quite believe it. It felt too surreal, too far out of her league. But there was something about him, something she couldn't quite shake, that made her want to take the plunge. The weight of the situation was beginning to sink in, and Clara's mind raced. She had never asked for this, never wanted to be caught in a web of power struggles and corporate betrayal. But here she was, standing in the middle of it all, her future uncertain, and her heart torn between love and fear. Days passed before Clara made her decision. Her mind raced, her doubts tugging at her, but she finally sent a message accepting Liam's offer. If this was the opportunity of a lifetime, then she couldn't afford to turn it down. She had to at least try. "I'm not going to let him tear us apart." "Clara," Liam said, his voice strong but filled with a raw, vulnerable emotion. "I care about you too much to lose you." When she arrived at Kessler Enterprises, The grand building loomed before her, a monument to everything she wasn't, a reminder of the life she had never known. She felt out of place the moment she stepped inside, surrounded by sleek, polished floors and people who seemed to glide through the air, effortlessly confident and poised. Clara wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that their connection could survive the chaos, but she couldn't ignore the fear that gripped her heart. Liam was a man of power, of ambition, and she was just her. How could she possibly be part of this world, a world so full of danger and manipulation? A receptionist, who looked like she belonged in a fashion magazine, led Clara to an elevator, and they went up to the top floor. The view from the elevator was breathtaking, but Clara couldn't focus on it. She was too consumed by nerves, too overwhelmed by what was about to happen. "We'll fight this together," Liam said, taking her hand in his grip firm. "But I need you to trust me. I need you to stand by me, no matter what happens." Liam was waiting for her when she arrived in his office, the walls lined with bookshelves and modern art. He was standing by the window, his back to her, looking out over the city below. His expression was unreadable, and for a moment, Clara wondered if she had made a mistake by accepting his offer. Clara stared at their intertwined hands, her mind spinning. She wanted to trust him. She wanted to believe that love could conquer everything. But there was too much at stake, too much that could go wrong. "Clara, I'm glad you came," Liam said, turning around to face her. "I know this is a lot to take in, but I'm confident you'll thrive here." And as the days passed, the pressure only intensified. Clara was no longer just fighting for herself. She was fighting for the man she loved, for the company, and for a future that seemed increasingly uncertain. Clara nodded, her throat dry. "Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Mr. Kessler. I'll do my best." The days following the revelation of Victor Ross's return felt like they were moving in slow motion. Clara couldn't shake the weight of Liam's words. Every time she saw him, she noticed the strain in his eyes, the way he carried the burden of everything on his shoulders. The air between them was thick with unspoken tension, and Clara felt her own resolve faltering. She didn't want to lose him. She didn't want to become part of this dangerous game, but there was something in Liam's determination that made her want to believe in him. To believe in them. Liam smiled, that familiar spark in his eyes. "Please, call me Liam. You're not here to be intimidated." Despite the growing threats from Victor, Liam remained committed to keeping Clara close, to keeping her safe. He arranged private security for her, made sure she was never alone, and went to great lengths to shield her from the media attention and corporate sabotage. But Clara knew that his efforts were not enough to protect them from the storm that was coming. She could see the toll it was taking on him, the sleepless nights, the constant meetings with lawyers and security, the endless phone calls. As he spoke, Clara couldn't help but notice the way he held himself confident, powerful, yet somehow approachable. It was a strange combination, one that only added to the mystery of who he really was. One evening, as the sun set behind the skyline of the city, Clara found herself standing by the window of her apartment, looking out at the world below. She felt the weight of everything pressing down on her chest. She loved Liam, but could she really be a part of this world? The world of billionaires, corporate wars, and dangerous enemies? She wasn't sure she was strong enough to withstand the forces that were at play. "Let's get started," he said, leading her to the desk, where a stack of papers awaited her. "We have a lot of work ahead of us, but I'm confident you'll do great." Liam appeared behind her, his footsteps light but sure. "Clara, you've been quiet. What's on your mind?" And just like that, Clara's world shifted again. She had no idea where this path would lead, or what would happen next. But one thing was clear. Her life was never going to be the same again. She turned to face him, her heart pounding. "I don't know if I can do this, Liam. I don't know if I can be part of your world. The world you're in, it's too much. I'm not like you. I don't know how to fight these kinds of battles." Clara's first week at Kessler Enterprises felt like a whirlwind. She had never been in an environment like this before. The office was pristine, gleaming with polished marble floors and sleek glass walls. The employees moved with an air of quiet confidence, as if they belonged to a world far removed from her own. For the first time in her life, Clara felt like an outsider, like a fish out of water. Liam stepped forward, his eyes softening as he reached for her hand. "You don't have to fight them alone, Clara. We're in this together. You're not just some bystander in my life. You're a part of it. A huge part. And I need you to understand that. Her tasks were endless, from organizing events to liaising with high-profile clients. But Clara threw herself into the work with determination. She had never been afraid of hard work. But this was different. It was a challenge unlike anything she'd ever faced. Every day felt like a new test of her abilities. And every success, no matter how small, gave her a sense of pride. Clara shook her head, her eyes brimming with emotion. But what if I can't keep up with you? What if I'm not strong enough to handle the pressure? What if it all falls apart? Liam, for his part, was always present, often checking in with her to see how she was doing, offering feedback on her progress. He was a force to be reckoned with in the office, commanding attention without ever raising his voice. His presence alone seemed to shift the atmosphere, making everyone around him work harder, be more efficient. Liam's grip tightened around her hand, his voice unwavering. It's going to be hard. I won't lie to you about that. But you are stronger than you think. You've been fighting all your life. And now, you have someone who will fight with you. Not for the company, not for my name, but for us, for our future. Despite his cold, businesslike demeanor, Clara began to notice something. Whenever their paths crossed, whether in a meeting or during lunch, his eyes would linger just a moment longer than necessary. It wasn't much, but it was enough to make her heart race every time. She wasn't foolish enough to think that Liam Kessler, a man who could have any woman he wanted, was actually interested in her. She was just a lowly assistant, after all, someone who worked tirelessly behind the scenes. Tears welled up in Clara's eyes as she looked up at him. But I can't lose you. Liam, I can't lose us. Still, there was a part of her that couldn't ignore the way he made her feel the warmth in his gaze, the subtle compliments, the way he seemed to care about her opinion. She had never felt so seen before, and it made her question everything. Was it possible that someone like him could be attracted to someone like her? Liam cupped her face gently, his thumb brushing away the tear that slipped down her cheek. You won't lose me. I promise. I'm not letting you go. Not now. Not ever. The days stretched into weeks, and as Clara grew more comfortable in her new role, she began to notice the small changes in herself. She walked taller, held her head higher, and for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was worth something. The world around her was changing, and so was she. She was no longer just the girl who worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. She was someone with a future, someone with potential. The intensity in his voice, the conviction in his words, made Clara's heart swell. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that no matter what, they would get through this together. But the fear still lingered. Could they really survive the storm? Could they conquer the forces that wanted to tear them apart? One afternoon, as Clara was reviewing a set of contracts in her office, Liam entered without knocking, his presence filling the room. Clara looked up, startled, but quickly masked her surprise with a smile. I'm scared, Clara whispered, her voice trembling. I'm scared that everything will fall apart and I'll be left alone. Again. Busy? He asked, his voice smooth, almost teasing. Liam pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. You won't be alone. Not with me, not ever. Clara shook her head. Just reviewing some contracts for the upcoming event, nothing too complicated. And for the first time in days, Clara let herself relax in his embrace, letting the warmth of his touch melt away the fear that had consumed her. They stood there for what felt like an eternity, just holding each other, as if the world outside didn't exist. Liam walked over, peering over her shoulder at the document. His proximity sent a shiver down her spine, but she forced herself to focus on the task at hand. She couldn't afford to get distracted, especially not by him. The next few days were filled with action. Liam and his team worked tirelessly to protect their company, to shield Clara from the relentless attacks that were coming from Victor and his allies. But amidst the chaos, Clara started to feel like she was truly part of Liam's world, not because of the money or the power, but because of the love they shared. These look great, Liam said, his hand brushing lightly against hers as he pointed to a section of the contract. You've done a good job. Liam took Clara on a trip, away from the city, to give them both a chance to breathe. The quiet, serene atmosphere of the countryside allowed Clara to clear her mind, to focus on the things that truly mattered. Liam was by her side, supporting her every step of the way, showing her what it meant to trust, to fight for the things that truly mattered. Clara's heart skipped a beat at the touch. It was so casual, so effortless, yet it made her pulse race. She quickly pulled her hand back, forcing a professional smile. Thank you, Mr. Kessler. During their time away, Clara realized something she didn't need to fight the world alone. She didn't have to be like Liam to be strong. She had her own strength, her own voice, and together, they could face anything. The storm wasn't over, but Clara was no longer afraid of it. She had Liam by her side, and that was enough. Please, he said, his voice softening slightly. Call me Liam. When they returned to the city, it was with a renewed sense of purpose. Liam was more determined than ever to take down Victor, and Clara was ready to stand beside him. They were a team, and nothing could tear them apart. Clara swallowed, unsure of how to respond. Liam. Then, the day of the final showdown arrived faster than Clara could have anticipated. It wasn't just about Victor Ross anymore. It wasn't even about the power struggle between Liam's family and the dangerous enemies that lurked in the corporate shadows. It was about their future. It was about what they were willing to risk for the love they shared. He studied her for a moment, his gaze intense, and Clara couldn't help but feel the weight of it. There was something in his eyes, something more than just admiration. It was an unreadable mixture of curiosity and something deeper, something she couldn't quite name. Liam had made it clear he was ready to take down anyone who stood in the way of their happiness. He would protect Clara, and he would protect their company, no matter what it cost him. You've been doing great work, Clara, he continued. I can see your potential. I don't think anyone else here would have handled this project as well as you have. But even as the battle loomed ahead, Clara felt a sense of peace settle over her. The weeks of turmoil, the sleepless nights, the constant fear of losing Liam, it was all leading up to this moment. And now, standing side by side with him, Clara knew that they could face anything together. Clara's cheeks flushed. She wasn't used to receiving praise, especially not from someone as important as Liam. Thank you. I'm just doing my job. Victor Ross had pushed them to the brink, and now Liam and Clara were prepared to push back. Liam smiled, but there was a certain softness to it, something that made Clara's heart flutter. I can see that, but I think you're capable of even more. The battle wasn't fought with weapons or violence. It was fought in the boardrooms, in the media, in the courtrooms. The game was one of strategy and power, and Liam had all the right pieces to win. He had the loyalty of his people, the support of key allies, and most importantly, he had Clara by his side. The words hung in the air between them, charged with an electricity Clara could feel in every fiber of her being. She wasn't sure what it meant, but she knew one thing for certain. Liam Kessler was not just her boss. He was becoming something else in her life, something she wasn't sure she was ready for. Victor, desperate to gain control, resorted to increasingly underhanded tactics. He tried to discredit Liam, tried to turn the public against him, but Liam had anticipated every move. The public saw through Victor's lies. The truth about Victor's shady business dealings was exposed, and his empire began to crumble. With every blow Victor landed, Liam countered with precision and grace, and Clara stood beside him, unwavering. As Liam turned to leave, he paused at the door, looking back at Clara. You're doing more than just your job, Clara. You're changing things around here, and I think you're going to change things for yourself, too. The moment the tide turned came in the form of a live broadcast, Liam facing the world, standing strong, with Clara by his side. Together, they unveiled the final piece of evidence that would end Victor's reign of manipulation. Victor, cornered and broken, had no choice but to retreat. He was defeated, and his hold over Liam's company and personal life was shattered. Clara stared after him, her mind racing. Could it be? Was there really something between them? Or was she just imagining it? But it wasn't just the victory that mattered. It was what Liam said next. With Clara holding his hand, her heart racing in her chest, she didn't know what the future held. But one thing was for sure, Liam Kessler had a way of making her believe in things she never thought possible. To everyone watching, and to the people who believed in us, Liam began, his voice steady and confident. This isn't just about business. This is about loyalty, integrity, and love. Clara and I have been through more than anyone could have imagined, but we came out stronger. We didn't just fight for a company, we fought for each other. The days after Liam's unexpected words haunted Clara. There was no denying the connection between them. No matter how hard she tried to resist it, every time he smiled at her, or when their eyes met across the crowded office, Clara felt a pull she couldn't explain. But she knew one thing for certain. This wasn't just some simple office romance. Liam Kessler wasn't just any man. He was the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar empire. And Clara was just a girl from the wrong side of town. Clara's heart swelled with pride as the words echoed in her mind. She hadn't just been a passive spectator in his life. She had been a part of the fight. She had made him see that love was stronger than any empire, stronger than any rivalry. And together, they had built something that no one could tear down. Her doubts grew stronger each day. Could someone like her truly fit into his world? Could she balance the man she was becoming with the life she had left behind? She couldn't help but feel like she was on the edge of something that could either lift her up or tear her down. The final piece fell into place, and the world seemed to shift into focus. But the universe, as always, had its own plans. As the dust settled, Liam turned to Clara, his expression softer than ever. "We did it, Clara. We really did it." It started subtly at first. Small whispers in the office about Clara, rumors about her special treatment from Liam, gossip about how close they seemed to be. It wasn't that she minded the attention, it was the way it was being used against her. People in the office who had once smiled at her now exchanged furtive glances and whispered behind her back. Clara knew that it came with the territory of being Liam's assistant, but it still stung. Tears welled in Clara's eyes as she looked up at him, her heart full of everything she had ever hoped for. "We did it. Liam, we're free." Her confidence began to falter as the whispers grew louder. But that wasn't the worst part. Liam stepped closer to her, his hands cupping her face gently. "I'll spend the rest of my life proving to you how much you mean to me. You're my world." Clara, Liam's mother, Beatrice Kessler, who held a prominent position within the company, took an immediate disliking to Clara. From the moment they met at a company dinner, Clara could feel the icy reception. Beatrice was elegant and poised, but there was a sharpness to her gaze, an air of superiority that made Clara feel smaller than she already did. With a soft smile, Clara reached up and kissed him, her heart finally at peace. The chaos had passed. The battles had been fought. And now, they had everything they needed. "I see you've been spending quite a bit of time with my son," Beatrice said one evening, her tone cold as she sipped her glass of wine. The room was filled with important guests, but it felt like the two of them were in their own private world. Together, they stood at the top: Liam Kessler, the CEO, and Clara, the woman who had shown him what true strength was. They had fought, they had loved, and they had won. Clara forced a smile, trying to keep her voice steady. "Yes, Mr. Kessler has been very supportive of me and the work I'm doing. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay with us for the next one. And while you're here, check out our other videos. There's always more to explore." Beatrice raised an eyebrow, her lips curling into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Supportive." She chuckled softly, a sound that sent a chill down Clara's spine. "I do hope you're not confusing professional courtesy with something else."